HTML snippet, and the JS widgets. So in today's session, we are going to see about the ZML. So why ZML is required? We already have the HTML tag, right? So both HTML and ZML, it's going to help us to build some custom components to customize the appearance and behavior of your page elements, right? It also helps you to construct some panel components along with some business logics. You can use business logic using deluge, right? It also helps you to format the contents of your elements by applying various style attributes, right? So it can be used HTML as well, right? Why ZML? The advantage of going to ZML over HTML would be the nativity to your application. So the page component that you develop using ZML is gonna rendered properly in any devices, whether it's gonna be a tablet device or a mobile device, irrespective of the OS, the rendering is going to be seamless. So the nativity is something which is the advantage of ZML over the HTML. And in the page component, we have few panels, right? Pre-built panels available. All these panels are also built using ZML. So I'll also show you during the live demonstration. So now let us understand the various tags and elements that are available as part of ZML. So similar to the HTML, ZML, it also has various tags associated with it. You have the panel tag and you have the PR. PR is nothing but the panel row. And then you have the PC, that is panel column. And then you have text, prefix, suffix, image, and button. So these are the different ZML tags that we will be using for a ZML snippet. So we'll see these tags one by one. We'll start with the panel tag first. So panel tag is like a generic container for all your elements. So the entire content goes within your panel tag, right? So you might be seeing this HTML tag. It has many attributes associated with it, right? Similarly, in ZML as well, we have many attributes that can be associated with a particular tag. For example, in the panel tag, you can define a title for your panel using the title attribute. So you could see these are the list of attributes available, right? So you can specify a title for your panel. So once you specify a title for your panel, you can also provide further formatting for your title. Like you can specify the title size, you can apply some styles, like you wanted to bold the title or italic title, or you want to specify some title color, you can do that using these attributes. So these attributes are applicable when you provide the title attribute for the panel. So the next tag we have is the PR, panel row. So panel row, it helps you to define a row within a panel. So you could see the parent tag here. The parent tag can either be a panel column or it can be specified under a panel. So these are the parent tag, and child tag would be always under parent row. You can have a panel column, right? With respect to the attributes, you have width and height. So when I say a row, you have the options to define a width and height. Again, you have two different values that can be specified for the width and height. You can either go for automatic value, so that based on the content width, it's going to define the width, or you can specify the value as fill so that it will fill the entire width. So you have some possible values that can be applied to these attributes. So the next tag we have is the PC, that's a panel column. So panel column tag, it's gonna help us to define a column within a panel row. So please note that it's not within a panel, instead it's within a panel row. So the parent tag is always gonna be parent row, and under the parent column, you can further have multiple parent rows, and you can have other elements like text, image, button, etc. under parent column. And in the panel column tag, you can define various attributes. Like you can define the width of the panel column, or you can define the padding. So what is the different space that you wanted to have on all the sides of the element, right? So you can define the padding, or only on the top from the top you wanted to specify some padding for your element, or from the right, bottom, or left. So all these sides can be defined separately. And not only that, you can also specify the background color for your panel, and the alignment for your panel can also be done using these attributes. So one more property, the attribute what we have is the action. So if you want to have your panel column as a clickable element, right, on the click of that particular panel column, you wanted to perform any actions that can be defined using the action attribute here. So once the user clicks on the action attribute, what kind of action that needs to be defined in the action? So for example, you can specify the action like a link, or you wanted to take the user to a different page or a form or a report, or even you wanted to execute a function, you can do it using the action attribute here. So when you specify the action attribute as link, you will have to specify the URL. So the URL of the link where the user needs to get redirected, right? When you specify the action as a form or a report or page, you will have to define the form link name or the report link name or the page link name in here, component link name attribute. And the next thing we have is the app link name. So you can specify from which application you are trying to refer this particular form component, or from which application you are trying to refer this particular report component can be specified in the app link name attribute. And then you have the function name. So when the action is going to be a function, you can define the function name here, right? So you can execute a function as when the user clicks on this particular panel column, right? So you can also pass some query parameters. So there are cases where you will have a page component, or where you will have to pass a query parameter, right? So all these query parameters can be passed using the parameters attribute. So this parameter attribute is more specific for the action, is like when it's a form or report or page, you can specify the parameter attribute. And the success message, so for example, you use a function name, right? So when a function is getting executed, you wanted to show some success message, right? You can define the message using the success message attribute. And we also have the target attribute. So target attribute, it helps us to define the action, how it's going to perform, whether it's the page, we need to take the user to a new window or the same window, or you wanted to show the other form in the pop-up. So all this kind of information can be configured using the target attribute. When you choose a target as pop-up, again you have the options to set the pop-up width as well, right? And there are few more attributes we have related to the background image. If you set some background image, what's the background image position, whether the alignment part, so all these kind of settings can also be defined using the panel column. So the next, here you could see the structure here, right? So the underlying, the outermost layer would be the panel. So the outermost one is the panel. On top of the panel, you have the panel row, that is the PR, right? On top of the PR, you will have the panel column. And in the panel column is where you are going to define all your elements, like whether it's going to be a text or it's going to be some image or button. So everything is going to be on the panel column tag. So this is a structure that explains that. I'll also show you in coding, right? So this is a structure when you try to code in ZML. So initially you have the panel, and under panel you have the panel row, and under panel row you're going to have the panel column. And within the panel column, you can define all your components like text, image, button, etc. can be defined within the panel column, right? And you could see all the corresponding tags are closed, right? And you can also have multiple rows and columns that can be defined. So this is a structure that explains you about how a different like multiple rows and columns are defined in a panel. So the next tag that we have is the text tag. So text tag, it helps to define a text area that can hold a multiple lines of characters, right? So the parent tag, as I said earlier, the panel column is the tag which can hold the text, right? So you could see the parent tag as panel column. And child tag, it can hold a prefix or suffix tag, which we will be covering a little later, right? So with respect to the attributes for the text, the first one you have is the type. So the text can be used to display a static text, a static value, right? A string text can be displayed or you wanted to show some aggregate metrics of a particular form, right? Let's say I have a form and I wanted to display the number of records in a form, or I wanted to sum up all the revenues that are available in the form field, right? So these kind of aggregation can be done and displayed as a value here. So when you wanted to do some kind of aggregation, you can specify the type as form data. When you specify the type as form data, you can specify the value by accessing the corresponding app name dot field link name dot that particular aggregation function, like whether it's going to be a count or it's going to be a sum or maximum minimum. So all these kind of aggregate functions can be used. And when you try to apply this kind of aggregate functions, you can also specify some criteria. So based on this particular criteria, you fetch only those records and apply the aggregate function. And apart from that, in general, you have a number scale, like you want to display some, you want to indicate a number with some thousands or millions, right? You can have an indicator of K or B. Some indications can be done using the number scale. And you can specify the decimal places, so up to 3 decimal places you can have. So you can, restrict based on your requirement. You can specify the decimal places using this attribute. And you also have the thousands separator and decimal separator. So you also have further customizations, like you wanted to display your thousands separator using a comma or a period symbol, that can be done. And similarly for a decimal, right? So you wanted to have it like a comma or a period symbol, you can also do that using these attributes. And since it's a more kind of a static text value is also possible, you can customize the font family and other style attributes, like you can specify the size and whether it needs to be a bold or italic or coloring, and what's the background color and where's the text position actually, right? So you can specify using the padding fields. So these are some of the attributes that can be used for the text tag. So the next one we have is the prefix tag. So prefix tag, it always will be used to have some content that can be added before a text content, right? So this prefix tag is always used whenever you use a text tag with type as form data, right? So whenever there is some aggregation is happening, so then only you can use the prefix tag, right? So there are few attributes, like these type of tags can be used. For example, you try to get an aggregate metric of total revenue, right, in a particular field, and you wanted to prefix with a dollar symbol or the currency symbol, right? You can make use of the prefix tag to do that. And you also have furthermore customization, like you wanted to show that particular symbol in a bold or italic, or you wanted to have it in a larger size. You also have these kind of options can be done using these attributes. And the next tag we have is the suffix tag. So suffix tag helps you to add some content at the end of the primary text, that is the primary content, right? So again, similar to prefix, suffix can be used under the parent tag of text. And you also need to make sure that the type is always going to be a form data. That is, whenever you are going to perform some aggregate metric, you can make use of the suffix tag to display some information. So for example, you wanted to say how many number of units you have, right? So some information. So once you collect or sum up all the count, sum up all the records, you can suffix with units, right? So that 1 lakh units of data is available, and you wanted to highlight the unit part alone, the suffix part alone, you can do with these all these attributes, like you can increase the size or bold, italic, all this kind of styling can be done only for that suffix tag alone, right? So the next type of tag we have is the image tag. So image tag, it helps you to define an image. So as you could see, the parent tag here, it's a panel column, right? And these are the different attributes that are available for an image tag. So when I say image, the type can be either it can be icon image. There are a lot of pre-built icon that Zoho Creator offers. Either you can choose one of those icon, or you can also upload some images to your computer, right? So from your image library, you can try to access, or you have some image from a web-based URL, right? You can also define those kind of images here, right? So based on the type, whether it's going to be an icon or whether it's going to be from your computer or from the web URL, the value will change accordingly, right? So if it's going to be icon, you wanted to change the icon size, yes, you can, using this icon size attribute, you can do that. And you wanted to change the corner radius, right? You wanted to specify some numeric value to adjust the corner radius and all. Further customizations can be possible using this. And you can specify the color for your image or sorry icon, and for the background color for the element, the width and height of the element, and the padding. So the spacing from all the sides can also be defined, right? And here as well you have the options of specifying the action, like you can have specify some link, or you can on click of this particular image, you can take the user to a different link or different form or page or report, or you want to execute some functions. So everything can be defined using this action attribute here. So the next type of tag we have is the button tag. So button tag helps you to define a button. So as you see the parent tag under panel column, you can define a button tag. And in the button tag, there are a few attributes we have, like we have the option to define the in the text attribute. And you wanted to have the different size of the label, or you wanted to apply some styles to it or not, you can do that here. And you also have the option to set the type of button. Some people will prefer to have a flat button, or few will prefer to have a rounded edges, right? Using type, you can also customize those kind of settings, right? And here as well, we have the actions. On click of the button, what kind of actions that needs to be executed can also be defined here. For example, you want to take to a different link or a page or a form, can be done over here. So let's get into the live demonstration now. So I have already created a application, a simple application for Zilka mobile store, right? So I have a mobile form and have a mobile report, right, to capture few information. And I have a customer feedback to capture the customer feedback, and I have few customer details as well available, right? And an order form is also available. So here I'm gonna explain you the ZML snippet. So I'm getting into the edit mode of the application now, right? So ZML snippet, it can be done within your page component, right? So I'm going to click on add new, and I click on page component. So I'm going to create a page from scratch. So let me name the page as ZML page, and I click on create page. So as soon as you create a new page component, on the left hand side, you could see various pre-built elements that are also available in your page component. So the first one you see is the panel, right? So when you drag and drop a panel, you could see you have the options to change the text that is displayed over here, right? And you could also see the option called code, right? So this is a design tab where you could see the design of the particular text. When you click on the code tab, so you could see the ZML code that is getting generated in backend for the particular design. So this is the ZML code that is used for to have this particular design created, right? So from the code as well, you can make the changes, right? For example, I'll just change the text, right? So as soon as you change the text, you could see the output here. So I click on save, and you could see the changes are getting reflected immediately here, right? So you can as well make use of the existing panels, and you can make some modifications to the existing panels and make use of it. Or if you would like to have a complete customization, you wanted to do it from the scratch, you have something called snippets. Click on snippets, and under snippets you have ZML snippet, HTML snippet, and embed. So ZML snippet, as it says, it helps you to create the custom views with ZML and deluge. It is optimized for all the devices. So here is where we talk about the nativity. And HTML snippet, as it says, create custom views with HTML and deluge, optimized only for web application, right? So I'm going to choose the ZML snippet and just dragging and dropping the ZML snippet here. So as soon as you drag and drop a ZML snippet, so you could see a few statements default, it's getting generated here, right? So whatever you see here, the panel, so this panel is where you will actually perform your design related work, right? So whatever design related changes can be done within your panel. And the angular brackets, where whatever you see is where the area for the business logic using deluge. So here is where you can make use of the deluge to have your business logics done, right? So by default, you have a panel available, right? So let me also try to create something like I'll specify some title for the panel, title equals. So this is the attribute for the panel, right? And you'll have to specify the value in a single quotes. So I say my page, right? Just click on save and I'll try to access this form. So I see ZML page and you could see the value as my page, right? So we have just created a panel and specified some title. So with respect to the panel, you wanted to apply some stylings for your title, you can do that. For example, I'll specify the title size, right? So title size, the value for the title size can be specified from 1 to 9. Okay, so the default size would be 4. So whatever you see is a default size, and if you wanted to make further customizations, you can do that. For example, I'll specify the title size as 8, right? And if I wanted to make the text bold, so I'll say right? And I'll also specify some title color. And you have the option to specify the title color in a hexadecimal code.
Mani, sorry for interruption. We've lost you for a few seconds, and also your screen is not visible. Can you please share your screen?
Oh yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Is it visible now?
Yes, Mani. Yeah, now it is visible. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. So I'll also reiterate again. So the panel is the area where you actually perform your designs related code, right? And the Angular statements is where you perform your business logic. The deluge part can be done within your Angular brackets, right? So what I was trying to do is there was a default panel available. I was just trying to specify a title for my panel and few style attributes like the title size, bold title, and title color. So the value for title size can be from 1 to 9. The default value is 4. That's what you see here when I try to execute, right? I have just changed it to 8. And bold title, I have specified the value as true so that I need the particular title in a bold way, right? So the default value is again false. And in title color, you can specify the hexadecimal code for the color. So once you are done, you can save your snippet and next step would be we'll try to add a panel row. So panel row, the tag name is PR, right? So as soon as you add a row, it's good practice to close that particular statement as well. Each and every tag needs to have a closing tag. So as soon as you create a new tag, it's better to close that particular tag as well. And with respect to the attribute.
Hello.
Yeah, B.
Mani, again, the screen is not visible.
Oh, okay. So is it okay now?
Oh, yeah. Still, it's not visible.
Okay.
It's visible. Yeah.
Visible, huh?
Yeah. It's visible, it seems. So we'll check with others as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, extremely sorry for that disconnect. So I'm just trying to define a panel row here, right? So panel row, you can specify attributes like for the row, you can specify attributes like height and width for your row, right? So I'm gonna specify the width equals, and you can specify the options like you can either go for a value of auto. so that it automatically sets the width based on the content that you specify within your panel row, or you can say fill. So when you say fill, it fills the width of the panel row, right? So next I'll add a panel column tag, right? So in the panel column tag as well, you can specify the width. You have the options to do that. And you can specify the padding as well, right? So you can specify some padding. Let's say in pixels, you can specify some padding values. So I'm specifying it as 20 pixels. And you can also specify some colors, right? So I'll specify some background color in a hexadecimal code, right? And within the panel column is where you can have all your custom elements, like you wanted to have some text, or you want to have some image, or you want to have some buttons. So everything goes under your panel column. So I'm going to have a text here. So I have a text tag, and I'm going to specify the value as Zoho Creator, right? So I'll also close the text. Let me save, and I'll execute the. So you could see there is a panel row that has got created. I have changed the background color, right? And you could also see the text value that I have given here, right? So I'll also try to show you how to add multiple panel columns. So I'll add one more panel column. Here I'll also introduce the width, right? So I'll say width equals 50%, and here as well I'll say width equals 50%, right? And padding is 20px. And just for a differentiation, I'll specify some different background color, right? I close the panel column, and within your panel column you can have another text with value equals, let's say, ZML, right? So now I have a row, and within that row I have defined two different columns, right? That too with two different background colors for our understanding. So I'll just refresh the application once. So you could see that these are the two different panel columns that we have created, right, with the corresponding text values. So the next would be, if you wanted to specify some action. So currently, if you see, when you click on this particular panel, nothing is happening, right? You wanted to add some actions to this particular panel column. You can make use of the action attribute to do that. Let me create an action attribute equals. Here the values for the action attributes can be either it can be a link, or either it can be a form, or a report, a page, or a function name, right? So I'm gonna define it as link. So when I say link, I will have to specify the URL, so where the user needs to get redirected. So let me take a URL for Zoho Creator. Right? So I have specified the URL here. So let me save, and I'll try to refresh the application. So I mouse over, you could see this particular panel column is clickable, right? So when you click on this, it redirects the user to the mentioned URL, right? Similarly, I'll also show you how it can be redirected to a different form or report or page. So you define action equals form, right? So when you say form, you'll have to define the component link name. Component link name is the attribute using which you can define your form link name, right? So I'll choose one of the form, maybe a mobile form. I just get the form link name from the URL, or you can also get your form link name from your form component. So you can get into the edit mode of your application. You get into the open form builder, choose the more icon, and click on rename. So you get the form link name from here, right? Or you can also get the form link name from your URL. So I'll just mention the component link name as form. And I'll also specify the target here, right? So if you wanted to take the user to a new window, or you want to open the particular form in the same window on a pop-up, you can specify those values in the target. So I'm going to say new window, right? So let me save and I'll execute. So on clicking of the ZML, it needs to redirect me to the mobile form in a new window, right? So I click on this and you are getting redirected to the mobile form, right? So this way you can specify some actions, whether it's going to be a link or any other component in Creator, you can make use of the action tag to do that, right? So far we saw about the text. So next we'll see how an image tag can be used, right? I'll create one more panel component. Here I'll use image tag. So in the image, the attribute we have is type. So the type attribute can have the values of defining what kind of image you are going to upload. Like you want to have the icon image, or you wanted to refer the image that is available in your library, computer library, right? Or you wanted to refer some images that is available in your web, right? So everything can be defined from the type attribute. So I'm going to say icon, right? And I'll also say the value. So there are a lot of pre-built icons that are available, right? So these are available from the library, right? So you get the icon name, you get the ZML syntax when you wanted to use the icon name, or when you, what is the HTML syntax when you wanted to use this icon, right? So these icons again have two different types. So you can use this icon in a solid type or just the outline type, whichever you prefer, you can choose it. So there are around 2000 icons, pre-built icons that are available. So let me show you how this icon can be referred within your ZML. So I'm going to just copy. You will have to ZCLI solid is the one you will have to refer, or you can also directly copy the entire syntax from here, right? I say this is the icon, and I closed. And if you wanted to specify some icon size as well, you can do that here. So the icon size, again, it can be from values from 1 to 9, right? And I'll also adjust the width, let's say 3, 4, and I'll also specify some width here. Let me save, and I'll try to execute now. So you could see the icon coming up here, right? So this icon is something which we got from the pre-built icons that are available, right? Similarly, like you wanted to have some buttons, right? One more panel column to show you how the buttons can be used, right? So button, the first attribute you need to specify is the text, that is the label that is shown in your button. Text equals, let's say, place order, right? And you wanted to have some stylings that needs to be applied for this particular text, you can do that. For example, you want to specify some size, you can specify the size, and you wanted to make it bold, you can say the value is true. And I'll also have some BG color, background color, to show you the differentiation. I'll use some already used one, right? And color of the label can also be given. Right? So I'll just put some width. I'm just trying to show everything from a single row. Just save, and I'll refresh the application. So you could see the button has got created here, right? So it looks like a clickable one.